Boulder feels like a bubble, and the bubble bursts, and that's heartbreaking.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, grim news coming out of Boulder. Witnesses describe chaos. A shooter has killed 10 people in a King Soopers in Boulder, one of them a traffic officer. Somehow the shooters emerged without any injuries, and that can only mean it just seems unlikely that he wasn't wearing some kind of body armor. Although I don't think witnesses have said anything about that, but he wasn't wearing body armor. It seems like he was very lucky. Many of us in the true crime community feel like we know Boulder. We even have a sort of a fondness for Boulder. It seems like a nice place, a quaint place. And as I played in the clip in the beginning there, a bubble that is different to other places in Colorado. Something seems to be going on in Colorado because of the crimes that have been occurring there. But Boulder, until now, seems to have been spared that sort of violence. It seems the supermarket was the setting for lines of Boulderites trying to get vaccinated when the shooter, a guy that seems somewhat overweight, based on grainy footage, it appears to be a white male, possibly in his late 20s, early 30s, with a beard. He was armed with a rifle and he opened fire at around about 2:30 local time. And I want to just echo what this guy Ryan Borowski said in the clip that I played earlier on CNN. He said, Boulder feels like a bubble and the bubble burst. I wonder whether that's not a good description for America as a whole. He says, this feels like the safest spot in America and I just nearly got killed for getting a soda and a bag of chips. Elsewhere in the article he says, it feels like there's nowhere that's safe. Apparently, the shooter just walked into the store, started shooting. On about the third shot, people started stampeding out of there, as you can imagine. Then there was obviously a police reaction. The first officer on the scene was 51-year-old Eric Talley from the Boulder Police Department, and he was shot dead by the suspect, along with 9 other civilians. Quite an interesting eyewitness account was that there was, after the first shot, something like 3 seconds went by before the other shots were fired, which may indicate that even the shooter was shocked and surprised by what he had just done. It could also be just the way that the brain works when you in a situation of adrenaline and emergency, that feeling of time standing still. The only way you would know is from a recording of the events. In a CNN article, a lady, Jessica Crumby, was actually getting tattooed at the same shopping center as King Soopers, and she said it's interesting how different people in the same location hear different things. She said she heard 4 shots. And obviously there had to have been at least twice as many as that. But obviously in the panic, in the mayhem, she only heard some of them. And some of them sounded like a popping sound, others a cracking sound. And that was associated with glass shattering. While people were running out of the store, sirens were blaring as the first law enforcement personnel arrived on the scene, as well as ambulances. The article also refers to a guy called Ben who's inside his apartment, and he heard the sounds and he said he didn't think much of it. It's just amazing how the reality of different people can be so different in slightly different locations, right? So this particular eyewitness saw 40 or more police officers, SWAT personnel coming in from surrounding cities, and then he saw people being loaded up into a bus, civilians, escorted from the scene. And then he described the suspect. He said he had no shirt on, wasn't even wearing pants. The whole one side of his leg was bleeding, and I believe part of his arm as well. So it's not clear whether he wasn't wounded or whether that blood is from somebody else. And so where we are now is we wanting to know the identity of the suspect, which is going to give us a sense of his connection to Boulder and his motivations. In almost every shooting, it's the same question: what is the motive of the shooter? In this case, he didn't commit suicide, so that's not really part of the scenario, which is often part of the scenario. I do think you can expect someone to be down on his luck. Perhaps he's broken up recently with his girlfriend, he's lost his job, perhaps he believes the whole corona thing is a hoax, and who knows, perhaps there's a manifesto out there as per usual. I do think that it is good from law enforcement's perspective not to reveal the identity and to sort of deflate the celebrity, if you want to call it that, to let the wind go out of the sails of, because you kind of get the idea that this is done in order to get attention, to achieve significance. And so by not revealing the identity at this stage where everyone is interested, you sort of achieve that goal. But for how long can one do that? Now, obviously, we're just talking about Colorado, but there's a tweet that I found online referring to mass shootings in my home state of Colorado since I was born, with the addition there, I'm not yet 30. And it goes from Columbine High School, Platte Canyon High School, YWAM New Life Church, Deer Creek, Aurora Movie Theater, Arapahoe High School, Planned Parenthood Colorado Springs, Thornton Walmart, STEM School, and now Boulder King Supers. That's 10 separate shooting events, and I've written about Columbine and the Aurora Movie Theater shooting in my book Slaughter, which I've, crazily enough, I just put up a video about Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston bomber. And I just mentioned my book in that video, and that was about 5 or 6 hours before this shooting in Boulder. As I say, Boulder is a place many of us in the true crime community are familiar with, and you kind of get the sense exactly what Ryan Borowski was saying, that Boulder does feel like a bubble. It feels like a safe place in America, and that bubble has burst. What does that mean? Interestingly, the National Rifle Association kind of reflexively tweeted their response to this, which is that it's basically part of the law in America, saying a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think that you can say as a comment on that the right of people to bear arms won't be infringed, but what about the right of people shopping at a supermarket? What about their rights? Their rights to life, their rights to life, liberty, and the enjoyment of what they're doing. Is it worth not feeling safe in the whole of America for others to feel safe carrying weapons? Is the answer to not feeling safe carrying a weapon? It's an open question. I'm asking you what you think. In USA Today, a University of Colorado basketball coach, Tad Boyle, spoke about the tragedy, spoke about it weighing on his mind during the second round NCAA men's basketball tournament that took place on Monday. And what he said, this is quoting from USA Today, he said, "It puts basketball in its proper place." He said, "Win or lose, I just felt an emptiness in my stomach." And this, I think, should be highlighted in bold. He said, "Another senseless act of violence that we've experienced as a country many, many times," right? America seems to be in a kind of limbo, slowly being destroyed from within by some of its own citizens, while politicians squabble and citizens stand by in disbelief until the same horrors repeat themselves. Now seems to be the time more than ever for leadership, for strong leadership in America. Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think we're going to see strong leadership? If the bubble has burst, maybe that's good. Maybe the bubble did need to burst. One wonders whether something is going to start in Boulder and sort of unfold over the rest of America, something good, some kind of change, some kind of wave of change. But I think for that to happen, the change needs to come from within, and the change also needs to come from the leadership. It's got to start somewhere. It's also got to go somewhere. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do like, share, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.